and then you can save that into open it up as Acrobat. So you can open up an Acrobat file and then save it and combine them. So let me get a share going. I'll just review that with everybody really quick. Takes like 3 seconds. Okay, so you save them all someplace on your computer as a JPEG. You'll basically have 4 images: front, the back, the other front, and the other back. So each record front and back. Okay, and then you're going to open up Acrobat, and you're gonna basically, you can do file create. Okay, and you're combining files into a single PDF. Okay, and once you do that, you're gonna get this kind of window, and it just says add your files. So you could just drag them in if you have them on your desktop. For me, they're kind of buried, but I'm just gonna kind of grab some of those desktop. And we have some pictures in here. And just gonna select them. 1, 2, 3, 4 in this case, add them. Okay, and if for some reason they're in a different order, you want to change the order, you can just kind of drag them around to move to whatever order you want. Okay, and then when you're done, just hit save or combine first. And it's combining, and it's basically what it's doing is making it one single PDF file with all 4 of these JPEGs in it. And it's gonna just take a second or 2 to work. Yes, a question there?
And just to clarify, you're expecting 4 different images because of the front and back of each shot we're doing, right? Okay.
Yep. Yep. So here's 1, this would be 2, that's 3, and that's 4 kind of thing. Yes. And then you could just save them. Just once you're done, hit save. It's going to say, where do you want to save it? I'm just going to keep the same place just by clicking on it. What do you want to call it? I'm going to put my name on it, and then I'll put just like a Tuesday, something like that. That way I just kind of, when I get the email, I know, okay, that's Tuesday class, or that's, the Monday class. So you guys are Tuesday, Wednesday, and then hit boom, and that's it. And then you email that to me, okay? And it'll turn out to be a pretty small file. It shouldn't be too large of a PDF to email to me. And that's it. And this same kind of thing can work for anything that you have document-wise. So in the future, as you do other things or bring other items together, you can combine them and make them up in PDF. So that kind of, we're learning Acrobat a little bit quickly. We're learning Acrobat as we're going along here, because I think it's a valuable tool for you guys, not just obviously with this class, but with many other classes as you go. Okay. That makes sense for everybody?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so save those PDFs, email those to me, and we will be cool. All right, so let me get some Illustrator going here. And let me just cancel that for now. All right, so I'm going to just open up, and we're going to just go through a new, I'm going to open up a new window today. We're going to go through some newer aspects of Illustrator that we haven't covered yet. And literally by the next hour or so, we're going to be kind of up to date on most of the major aspects of Illustrator. There's more to it, don't get me wrong, but the basic stuff in order to be able to start working and start creating. And like I said, we're going to start moving into doing some logo designs. So we can start to apply Illustrator, and then we're going to we'll take a little bit more advanced with it, with the second Illustrator project where we're going to be doing a poster. Okay, so I'm just going to do File, New. What do I want? I want 8.5 by 11, and I'm just going to hit Create. And now I've got my basic artboard. So they call this the artboard. Right now it's 8.5 by 11. You can make it other sizes, and of course you can use the artboard tool over here to enlarge or shrink the artboard. Okay, and basically the artboard becomes the area that would be printed. So if I was to hit print, it would print out. So I'm going to just kind of quickly, we've got a shape there, and I'm just holding the option and just duplicating it. We have a shape over here. If I was to hit print right now, all that would print would be this one square, not this one out here, because it's off the page. Okay, so as you're working, you know, oftentimes we'll go off the page. We do it all the time, or we'll make the artboard bigger, and then it's going to print in 8.5 by 11 sheets, because that's kind of what our printers are typically set up for. Okay, but you can put whatever you want on your artboard. Many times we'll just kind of work, and I'll put stuff in here to print it out, but I just kind of keep working in many ways just to get going. And you'll see that Thursday we're going to do a little demo video that I have from Aaron Draplin that I'll show you guys. So just kind of how he processes and thinks about logos and working those things up. Okay, so the other days we've worked on basically the shape tools, the rectangle, the ellipse, which if you hold the shift key down makes a perfect circle, the polygon tools and the star tools. And then we also were working with the pen tool up here. All right, so the pen tool, if you click and go, it makes shapes that you could want. If you click and drag, it gives you the handles, the Bezier curves, to kind of make points, right? And you can kind of pull those all together. If for some reason you have too many points, or you want to get rid of points or add points, there's the add and delete points. Remember that the least points, the more smooth it would be typically for a arc or a curve. So if I drew a circle right now, you'll see it only has literally 4 points, 4 anchors, 1, 2, 3, and 4, because the less it has, the better that arc is, and the smoother it's going to be. Okay, does that mean a circle can't have 50 points? No, but it's going to have little increments in there, and it's going to get a little choppy. Okay, so ideally the least amount of points the better. Remember, as you're drawing, you can come back in and use the Bezier curves, the handles, to tweak and modify. Okay, so oftentimes we're just kind of drawing things quickly, getting them kind of in the general ballpark of where we want, and then we're going to come back and modify and clean the things up. Okay, and then maybe things like, wait, I don't need this point, I can get rid of it, I think. Come over here to the minus, click on that, and that point went away, and I can still have the arc that I want. I can just kind of draw it in. Okay, so the least amount of points, many times the better. Okay, so if things are looking a little choppy, look at your shape and see if you can do some modifications on it. Also, the position of that point can move. Okay, so nothing's locked in here. It's very versatile and adaptable to make these shapes that you want it to be. Okay, and the reason we do this is we end up building up upon shapes. So we have basic shapes, and then we will what we call pathfind, or use the pathfinding tool to combine and join shapes together. So an example would be, I've got this square and this square, and I want to kind of make some new shape. And that new shape I want to make is, let me move these out of the way, is a combination of square 1 and square 2 together. Okay, so what I want is I want to make them both one shape, because right now they're 2 different shapes. So if I click both of those, and then there's a tool over here called the Pathfinder. And if you're not seeing it there, you can go to Window and come down, drop down, there's a Pathfinder tool. And what we get is these panels. I'm going to pull it away so we can see it by itself. And these are ways that we can combine shapes or take away parts of a shape. And this is what makes Illustrator kind of unique. So there's like unite, there's a minus the front, there's intersect, there's exclude, meaning take it out. And you can see I drew this squares, and it's very much like this picture. Okay, now obviously we have 2 squares, it's easy to represent and see this. If I do that, we're taking out that part. If I do that, we're going to do that. If I do that, so I'm basically can duplicate what these are. As you get more complicated, sometimes it's like, what does that one do? Or I know I want to make a hole in it, which one do I push? if you're not sure, you just kind of click, and if it doesn't do what you want, you just do Command Z, you undo. Okay, so if it doesn't do what you want, just undo. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're combining. So when I click, in this case, unite, just clicking it, this now becomes one shape. And you can see I can modify it. Okay, I can change the color. Whatever I need to do. I can play with the points. I can move points around if I wanted to. I can, as you saw, change the angles of the point or the curvature of those points, okay, to make the shape. You can now twist it and they're combined together. So the shapes can be combined with the Pathfinder tool. And that's the point of the Pathfinder tool, is to combine or take away or subtract points. Now, with Illustrator, it doesn't have these like 50 steps back history. You kind of have to work as you go. And, you know, once I start moving forward, I can only Command Z so much, and it's just going to keep taking away. But you don't want to move too fast and realize you don't need that, or you do need that. So if I was like unsure if I wanted that, I would make a copy, just holding the Option down, just make a copy and drag it to the side. That way, if I know, you know, maybe 10 steps from now or 10 minutes from now, I want to go back to this, I have it over here on the side. I just have a duplicate. And again, if I don't want it at the end, when I'm all done working for today, I can delete it. I can leave it on the side. It really doesn't matter, because at this point, it's just kind of an extra shape on the side. Okay, so pathfinding, okay, is a way that we're going to combine or subtract or bring together different things. And some of these seem to make sense because you kind of look at them, and we just made the squares. But if you also hold down the Option click, it says Option click as you do it, it will give you something a little bit different. Let me just show you that in a particular case. I'm going to make 2 more squares. And there's another square here. And I'm going to put that on top. I'm duplicating this kind of thing on the panel. Again, you have to select both shapes, so they're both selected. If I hold the Option down when it does it, it did combine them. Okay, so if I click, you can see it's selecting them both. But what it also allows me to do is come back and modify just one. Okay, so they are together as a unit. You notice that the path took away this stroke here. Okay, so that means they are combined just like they are here, but they're kind of separate. So if you want some of that additional modification capabilities, you would just hold the Option when you do it. Okay, it's just a personal choice. It just depends on what you're trying to work on. I would tell you, probably from experience, 99% of the time when I'm doing it, I'm just clicking the shape. Oops, gotta go back a couple more steps. As I just kind of click the shapes, I just kind of combine them. Okay, so I don't typically Option, I'll just combine them as one, and now they're here, and they all become one big unit. Okay, as we see here, so it's just one big complete unit that's editable or manageable. Now, you can do many things here. So a lot of it, you have to start to think a little bit differently. So we made this shape, and let's say I want to put a hole in the middle. Okay, so I'm happy with the exterior shape, but I want to make kind of a circle here. So in that case, I'm going to take a circle, and I'm going to just kind of scale this one down just to be in here. And I'm going to put it on front, because right now it's behind. You can see, because it's hidden behind. I'm going to go to Object, Arrange, bring the front, and now it's in the front of my shape so I can see it better. And now I'm going to select the red shape here, in this case, or the green shape, the circle. And then I've got options of minus the front, okay, intersect when you bring together, or exclude. And in this case, I think I want to minus the front. If it turns out to be wrong, you just undo, okay, because there's other options. You could do minus the back. So I'm going to minus the front. And by doing that, I've now cut a hole in this shape. Okay, so the red shape now has a circle hole in it that we can see through. Okay, and I could draw something behind it. It's going to draw a big panel. I'll give that a new color. I'm going to object arrange, send to the back. And you can see that this shape truly does have a hole in it. Now it's been cut by using the Pathfinder tool. Okay, it'd be next to impossible to even draw a simple shape like this with a pen tool, just kind of freehanding it. Okay, but with the Pathfinder tool, using the shapes, in this case, I was able to make this, fairly complex shape with a hole in it, literally in a matter of seconds. And this is how we start to build up things in Illustrator, and these simple shapes become more complex shapes as we go. And what we're doing is we're playing with the Pathfinder tool to kind of bring things forward or back, combine things, cut out things, etc. And again, they can be used over and over here. So if I do this on top of this shape and I put exclude, now I cut that hole out of that purple shape. Okay, and again, just by using the Pathfinder tool. Okay, if I do something like this, intersect, it takes away the purple because really the purple is by there. Let me move this over one. If I click here and here and I do intersect, it cuts away, in this case, the red shape. Okay, so it makes some kind of even newer form. And if I do something like this, it took away, in this case, the overlapping area, okay, where that red shape was on top of the purple shape. Okay, and again, this becomes empty space. Okay, down here, this divide, I just clicked it and go, what did it do? It didn't do anything. Well, it did. What it did was it made different parts. So if I click this here, just click each one, and it made like a jigsaw puzzle. Okay, so it basically took that shape, kind of did a, we'll say, a cookie cutter cut into different parts. So it becomes really almost like a jigsaw puzzle. Okay, so pull that back to there. This is going to trim. Let's see if it does anything. Sometimes you'll click it and go, well, it didn't do anything. Well, it's because it just doesn't do anything in that particular object, in that particular cut. I should have cut that off. It did. See, it trimmed it off here. So that trim one made this shape become an exterior part of that. And you're going to go, well, a lot of times we're just trying to move things around. We're trying to make these new kind of abstractions that as we go. So undo that. Oops. Okay, I'm just making sure my trim is there. Okay, I still have that trimmed on. I'm going to go back a couple steps. Okay. Now, on this one, this says crop. So this is going to crop to the shape that we put on there. And again, we're on top of things, but if we have a secondary shape, and remember, we can select multiple shapes as we go. And if I crop, it's going to cut those away from there. This is going to merge them. Okay, so again, it's very much like here, but it's just kind of bringing them together. Because when we do that, just click on this once, it merged it, but you see it also cut it. Okay, so it's kind of like trim, but a little different. And ultimately, it's just how these things start to work together as we go. Let me pull this back a step. We have outline, and that just kind of makes it all pass. And right now you can see they're kind of highlighted, they're blue. They have no stroke, but I can start to give them a stroke. Okay, so if I make some complex shape, I may just want the strokes to be there at the end and combined, and I can do that simply here with the outline mode. Back a few steps here. This Command Z and take it back. Okay, and then we have the minus the back. So let me do something here. I'm going to do a star so you can see it. 5-point star is good. I'm going to put that star over here. And I'm going to just send it to the back just so you can see how that will work. Send it to the back. Now it's behind. We can see it's behind there. So So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select it by dragging over. I'm dragging. I will select it. You can see that came up. Now, if I hit minus back, what it should do is cut from behind instead of cut from the front. And it did. Okay. So now this purple shape has that cut through, that star cut through from behind. So I could put the star on the front or the back. But again, it depends on how you're building things as you kind of layer. And you have to kind of, in your mind, start to think about what's on top of each other. Okay. So think of it more like kind of like tracing paper, onion skin paper, where you're kind of drawing on top of things you're seeing below. That's kind of what we're doing here. Okay. And we can make, again, some very complex shapes in literally a matter of a few minutes. Okay. By merging things together. Okay. Cutting things out. Okay. So very, very complex. And that's it. And again, it's still editable, right? We can still come in and grab points. We can still, in this case, adjust the roundness of the edges. Okay, we can still make those kind of adjustments. We can change the color. We can change the shade of it. We can add things like gradients. So we can change the opacity in here. We can make it kind of ghost away. So we can see something coming up from below. So there's a lot of things we can still do with these shapes. And you're going to find as you start to work, God knows almost everything seems to be Illustrator. There's Photoshop. We know there's photos. But I can tell you many times it's this Illustrator that's being used over and over and over again to create things, whether it be logos, menus sometimes, signage, package designs, logo illustrators used over and over and over again. So it's not just for illustrations. It's also used again for these other kind of peripheral items that we end up designing for. Okay, and logos are a very big part of it. Okay, book covers, even the album covers could be done that way, depending on whether it's photographically based and or Illustrator based. Okay, so it's a very versatile program. The beauty thing of this is it's resolution independent, as they say, meaning I just made this kind of cool shape and I can make this thing small or large and it will be the same. Okay, there's no bit mapping, there's no blurring of the edges with this. If I zoom in and I look at the edges here, it's sharp. There is no fuzziness there. Okay, this is a completely sharp edge because it's mathematically done. Okay, so whether it's tiny, like on like a little business card, or it's the size of a building, it will be sharp. Okay, so that's kind of really the beauty of Illustrator is you can make things bigger or smaller without having to worry about it. Now, again, when we're with photos, we're kind of locked into a resolution. We can make things bigger and we can make things smaller, but we're still dependent upon that resolution that photograph was originally taken in. Okay, so again, we can enhance it a little bit, but it has to be worked out to get to the size you want. Okay, very hard to make a big photograph very large. Okay, especially when you're trying to keep a higher resolution. And you'd be surprised sometimes when we get the really big stuff, the resolution is really small. So if you look at like a billboard riding along the freeway and it looks like a photograph, I'm going to tell you, if you look at that thing really close, you're going to see like these big pixels. They're going to be huge. They're going to be like 1 inch, 2 inch, sometimes pixels. Because you're looking at them from such a distance, you can blend that together at a low resolution and it looks like it's a solid thing. Okay. But when if you got really close to that billboard, you would start to see the dots and the pixels on that. If it was vector based, you wouldn't see that if it got printed out as a vector. Okay, so again, it's a very strong program to do that. Let me show you just 2 examples. These are 2 images. Let me open this one. This is a photograph, so it's bitmapped. Okay, so remember, I took this with my iPhone, so it's kind of bitmappy. This is a a restaurant in Vegas, the Mirage. This is a vector drawing, okay? And you could see it was the size of the wall, right? So this is 8 or 10 feet tall and I don't know, 20 feet long. So they basically just said make an 8 by 20 file and they started to draw it, okay? And they probably started from a pencil sketch or something like that to get going. But if you look at this close up, you can see how it was drawn into vectors. Now it's bitmappy because it's a photograph here, but if you looked at this in real life, it would look much sharper because it's not a photograph. Does that make sense? So they kind of broke it down into different components, much like we've seen when we did some live tracing or we did some drawings before. With Illustrator, it's kind of components broken down to kind of give you the depth that you're trying to look for. Okay, and you can see it's very, very complex. So if we were to start to draw this in, say, Illustrator, we'd probably just start with a new file, right? And I'm going to just say we want it to be 8 feet by 20, so it doesn't really matter. I'm going to do, oops, didn't want that. File new. I'm going to just say I wanted 8 inches by 20. And I want it horizontal, width 20, height 8, click OK. And that's my canvas. Okay, this is what I'm going to start to work from when I start to draw. Okay, and I'm going to just start to draw in, you know, the skeleton and, you know, all that other background element is. It doesn't matter because when I'm done, even though it's 8 inches by 20 inches, when we print it out, we can make it 8 feet by 20 feet. Okay, because it's a vector-based item, it won't matter at the very end. Okay, what it's going to be. Okay, so that's kind of really cool about Illustrator. We can work, and we don't need to work at 8 feet by 20 feet. We can work it in a vector-based thing at a much smaller scale in this case, and print it out. If we were to do this in Photoshop, let me just show you a canvas. If I was to make this 8 feet by 20 feet, let me just calculate here. Give me a second. Okay, so we have 20 times 12, 240 inches by 96. Okay, and let's say we want this to be, we're just going to say 200 dpi. Well, it's going to be, let me unclick that. Sample 96. It's doing it for me. I'm just going to keep it at 128. Okay, boom. I'm going to cancel it. So it's going to get huge. Let me just show you that size again. 90. Okay. It's bringing it up to 300 megs, and the width we want to be 240. Okay. So that's going to be 42 there. It's up to 34. Boom. Now we're looking at it. It's going to be a 150 meg file. Okay. That's just the start. We haven't even started working on this thing. And I can tell you the resolution won't be as good. Okay. So when we're doing it as a vector, we can have complete control over this. We can have formulate this thing to however we want. I'm going to cancel. It's going to crash my computer. And then they actually just print it out and basically wallpaper strips to do this. But this just kind of shows you some of the beauty that you can start to create when you're starting to do with Illustrator. How long would something like this take? I'm going to guess at least a week. This would take some time. There are going to be some times where they're going to replicate some things. Maybe some of this pattern gets replicated. This kind of unit here gets built over here. But I'm going to venture to say it's going to take them a good amount of time to do something like this. And many times people think because it's in the computer, it must be fast, it must be easy, it must not be difficult. I'm here to tell you that just because it's in the computer doesn't mean it's fast, doesn't mean it's easy, doesn't mean it's not difficult. Okay. And as you start to work, you should charge accordingly. Don't be like, well, it's only a drawing, you only did it there, I'm going to give you $100 for it. No, this is your time, this is your livelihood, and you should be paid appropriately for what you're doing as a designer and artist. Don't sell yourselves short because somebody else thinks it's easy. Okay, it's not. Okay, I can tell you something like this is a lot of work. Okay, not just kind of figuring that out and planning it out, but actually figuratively doing it and drawing it and getting it to be the way you want it to be. That's an immense amount of time. Okay, yes.
About how many hours of work do you think would be to create that?
I'm guessing at least a week. That's at least 40 to probably 40 to 60 hours to do this minimum.
Okay, thank you.
At least. And this is one wall. There's like 8 walls in this place, and it was all done by the same person. So it's it could be, a month, 2 months of work just to get this going. Is it worth it? I think so. It's gorgeous.
Making that in Illustrator seems like it would be more difficult than painting it, to be honest.
Yeah, I think. Well,
I mean, it might be quicker than hand painting, but hand painting, you at least have more control over it. This in Illustrator seems like very technical. And
no, you have complete control in Illustrator. Once you get this, if you get to this level in Illustrator, you've got complete control. Does that make sense? You're using this as well as you would any kind of paintbrush. It's a little bit, it's different in how it's made and how the process of doing it and how you think to do it. But you have complete control. You still do. The beauty of this is, though, once it's done, again, they can reuse this kind of thing on the menu, okay, or the signage, or some kind of seasonal poster or promotion. They could use it on any number of things. They could break this down into something that could become an embroidery on a shirt, maybe for the uniforms. They could put this on the plates. They could get this thing printed onto the plates themselves. Okay, so, and you can't do that if it was painted. Does that make sense? So there is an added value of going digital in this case, or Illustrator based. You can use it over and over and over again. Okay. And that really is the cool thing of it. Okay, it is completely versatile, and because it's vector, you can make it bigger, smaller, and use it a bazillion different ways. So when people are like, "Hey, I want you to do this," you got to remember they're also thinking, "How can I use this thing 50 other ways?" Okay, so it's not literally that one time. They're not just using it for one thing. They're going to use it over and over and over again. Okay, so that's when we start talking about the added value of things. You got to keep that in mind, that there's much more going into it, and many more ways that it's gonna get used in the end. It's not just one wall. It's not just a one-time thing. Most of the time, they're gonna reuse these items. They're gonna put them on. I mean, you could just a T-shirt, right? I mean, you could make this into a T-shirt and take elements away. Boom, you got a new shirt. Now they're selling shirts and making money off of that. Okay, so don't sell yourself short, and know that by going digital or versatile, like with Illustrator like this, we can use this thing many times over in a bazillion different ways that you probably haven't even thought about at this point. Okay, but you could paint it. Again, a lot of it is up to what they want, and it does look different than if you painted it, right? I mean, if you did a hand paint of this, but I can tell you, even if you painted this is going to take time, because you're going to have to draw this out first anyway on the wall in order to paint it. You're not just going to whip it up. Okay, that's not coming from your imagination, right? right?
Of
You would draw
course.
this out, wouldn't you? And then come back and paint it?
Totally. That's a lot of hand, drawing that you got to do and all that sort of
Yeah.
stuff. A lot of prep work.
Oh yeah, total. Yeah.
But then of course, like when you're using Illustrator, you could even add like a sort of, I don't know, like I want to call it a filter, but you can make it look like it's hand painted if you wanted to, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So get the
Yeah.
best of both
And likewise, you can do those kind of filter effects in Photoshop if you wanted to. So yes, you can use the filters up here, and there's one that like renders, pixelate, where is it? Stylized here, oil paint, right? So if I do that, it's going to make it look like an oil painting to some degree. I mean, you can change this all up, so it kind of gives it that oil painting look, even more so. And yes, you can do the same kind of thing in Illustrator here. They have effects, okay, and you'll notice there's Photoshop effects, and then there's Illustrator effects. So these are more kind of these are all vector-based things. Even though it's saying drop shadow, it is pixelized, but it's basically working off the vector. And then down here you have these other ones. These are the Photoshop ones. So you can kind of add those kind of effects even here to items that you have drawn up in Illustrator. You can do some Photoshop effects on them now. Now, remember when it does this though, it will bitmap them. Okay, so it's not a pure vector-based item. Okay, these are all vector-based. Okay, and we'll get into some of these because there's some ones I use like arcing, offset paths, those kind of things. We will definitely use those as we go. Okay. So Illustrator becomes quite a really diverse kind of object-based tool that we do. And again, we're using it over and over and over again. I was playing yesterday with the Starbucks logo with the other class, just kind of goofing off. And I took it and I basically, I did a image trace on it. And I came in here and I cleaned it all up. And I put it into a vector base. And again, it's because it's vector, I can make it as big as I want over here. And I can come back and I can, give it a color type of thing. For some reason, this one thing kind of gets weird. Okay. So if you're clicking on things and you get this grayed out, what you're doing is you're going into the subgroups over here. So let me pull this down, you can see. So basically we're into these group modes. So if you get that and you're clicking and something's not working, look up here, you'll probably see that arrow. And that just means you went into a group. Okay. And you'll do that sometimes if you want to work on a certain part of the group. I can double click and keep going down. So I get just that group and it won't let me touch the other items on the page. Okay, so it's just kind of a working practice. But know that if you just go crazy and you're clicking and you're like, well, I want to click over here and it's not working, you got to kind of look up there and move the path, or I'm sorry, move the layers back up to the top. Okay, and that comes back over here. Remember, everything we've drawn today is all one layer, and there's sub layers. Like in this, is I group them together, and this becomes a grouped item. As I click and drag, they all go together. Likewise, if I click this, it moves. If I click this, it moves. But if I click those two items and I group them, object, group, now as I click, they move together. Okay. So I can move things around quickly as I start to go. Now, no, it's not permanent. Just because it's grouped doesn't mean anything. If I dig down into that group, I can now move that item around. Okay, it's still grouped, but I can move it around. I mean, they're tied, but I can get in there and move them manually. Okay, so when I go back up, when I touch it, they're still grouped, even though I moved, in this case, the green shape around within this group. You can double click it down and move it around. So Illustrator becomes this really cool tool. It takes a little time to kind of get used to it because it's a little bit different way of thinking than Photoshop. But it's literally bringing shapes together to kind of create what we want and to do these illustrations. Whereas, like I said, Photoshop is more pixel based. We're taking photographs and we're manipulating them, and we're kind of adding and taking away pixels. In this case, we're adding and taking away parts of shapes to create the things that we're doing here in Illustrator. Questions so far today? Comments? Okay. I want to a couple more things I want to go over. I want to go over some typography stuff and just some quick color things. As we click on this and I click over here, we can see my swatches. These are basically the standard Illustrator swatches. So when you open a new document, you should get this file or this look, but there's more to it. We can do things like add swatches. Okay, so down here at the little library swatches, and if I click on that, I get a whole bunch of other things that can start to come up and I can start to use. Illustrator's done some cool things. They're kind of built together. So if I want, let's say I'm going to work on, I don't know, something with the trees, foliage, I can go to nature foliage, and it's going to open up this set of brushes, or I'm sorry, colors for me to use. Okay, so I can just kind of, I don't have to mix them. It's already mixed them for me. It does give me the formulas for those. And if I like something, I can literally just drag it over and it puts it here. Okay, so if I see something I like, I can just drop it in. If I see a whole folder that I like, I can just drop it over. Okay, get rid of that one. I duplicated it. Delete that one. Okay, so it's a way to work. This is the Middle Ages color palette. I don't know how they came up with that, but they did. So these are really great ways of working because they're kind of pre-done. I don't have to kind of mix, and you can see these are different than what's already pre-existing. And I've got these kind of shades together. So I can kind of do this, and I can kind of work up the color reference points. Now, again, we can make our own colors, of course, simply by clicking the color picker, picking a color. Okay, and if I like that color in the end, I can just drag that down. Okay, so I'm up here on my swatches and just drag it down, and it will add in. If I want a stroke, you see that's the black, I click on that one, and now I can change the stroke color. And right now it's really small. I'm gonna give it a thicker size so you can start to see it up here. There's 30 point, that's a big stroke. Okay, so you can change the stroke colors. Oops, you gotta select the object. Okay, and you can also change the fill color. Okay, by here. So just switching back and forth will give you one or the other. Okay, so and if you don't want any, if I want no stroke, I can either move this to 0, okay, or I can just hit no. Okay, no color, the white line, or red line going through none. Okay, so I'm able to add that in. If I want to bring a stroke back in, I could just kind of start upping it. Okay, and it's going to put that in. Okay, and there's, again, preset sizes if you want, but you can manually type in anything you want. If you want 23, if I want 23.5, I can. So it's versatile in the sense of what you can do. Okay, so we're not stuck with what's preset. We can do that. We can also make adjustments here through the properties panel, where I can select stroke and the size. Okay, also if I click on the word stroke, you see I get some extra options as to how the points come together. And I can also even do something like a dashed line in there. Okay, so if you want a dashed line, you could work that in with that. And then kind of the line stroke. Okay, it goes from thick to thin, kind of makes an arrow. Some of these won't show properly because they're not necessarily designed for it. But you can change the profile of the line itself. You can even add arrowheads. So if let's say I do a This is the line tool. It's a simple make a line. And I did a line and I want to put a arrowhead on it. I can go down here to arrowheads and one is in the front and then I could put something else in the back. Okay. And again, it's completely versatile with what you're doing. You know, again, illustrators use a lot for diagrams on how things work. And you may want to do some arrowheads in there to kind of point you to the items. And again, it's all editable. If I don't like the tail of this case, the arrowhead, I can come back in with something else. Or I can go back to nothing. Okay. Or I could even put another arrow on the other end. Okay, so again, pretty versatile with what you can do. Even the old hand there. And these are scales. Basically, you can make things bigger or smaller in there if you want to adjust them. You want a smaller hand or bigger hand, you can play with those kind of items. So again, a very, very versatile program when it comes to that. Okay. In this case, there's no fill because it's just a stroke. So what we did was we did a line segment there. We didn't go over those. So let me just go through those real quick. They're pretty simple tools to use. Move over. Line, just a line, okay, and you can give it a stroke fill there. And if you want the line not to be, in this case, square, right, we can go back to the stroke and we have the edges. We can make it a rounded segment, or we can do this is the same, it's the cap, it's the end. You can see it's a little bit different. Basically, it's how much is overlap. Again, when you get into technical drawings, you get into very specific things that will make a difference. Okay, typically it's there where the point is at the end, but it won't be. And then the same thing here, you can round the corners or not round the corners and how the corners align. Again, this gets into some like potentially very complicated technical drawings. The arc tool just kind of does an arc. I don't know, I don't typically use it too much, but it's there. There's a spiral tool, it's kind of cool. It gives you points. So again, you can come back in and play with those points if you want to change them. Okay, you can adjust your thing there. This does some kind of a grid. So if you're working on some kind of table, you can work that there. And again, do a little bit thinner stroke. That makes a lot more sense. So that, and then there's this kind of weird one. Okay. Again, just kind of a weird, I call it spiral grid. And I can think you can probably, let me just see here. By clicking the table or clicking your artboard, when the tool is selected, you can change it, right? So it says 5 concentric dividers. So you could change this up and down or skew things around. Okay, so you can make adjustments to these items as you go. So nothing's kind of preset. Now, one thing I do often is over here in the properties panel, I'm going to just draw a circle and I'm going to give it a fill color just so we can see it easier. And that's there. And then we're going to give it a black fill. So if I'm building something like, say, a sticker or a t-shirt, I want it to be a certain size. So I will resize it to be, so when I send the files up to be printed or manufactured, they are proper size. So in this case, I drew a perfect circle. I know it's a circle, but I'm not sure how big it is. So in this case, it's 6 by 6, almost 5.9, but whatever. So at this point, I can, if I want to make a, in this case, a 3-point circle, a 3-inch circle, I'm just going to hit 3 and return. And because they're linked, this circle now has become 3 inches. Okay, so when I send this off to reprint it, boom, it's all set to go. It's the proper size. and it's going to be good. And again, I can draw it initially, whatever size I want. I'm just going to scale it down when I'm all said and done. Okay, so we have that. And let's say I want to put a shape inside of that. Just do a triangle, boom. And I'm going to give it a triangle font. Look at that. So we made a cool little shape. I want to center this shape and that shape. So I'm going to go to align. I'm going to center right, left, and center up and down. That didn't work because of the point. And distribute, boom. Okay. So we have that there. And again, then I would make this whatever size I want. So I've just kind of selected them all, or I would probably group them to make sure they're staying together well. And then come back over here on my properties panel, hit 3, boom. Everything scales proportionally. It's now 3 inches by 3 inches circle, and I'm good to print. I'm good to go. Okay. So again, because we're resolution independent, I can work at different sizes or scales and not worry about it too much. I know I can scale it up or down as I get to the point or when I need it. So right now it works great as a 3-inch sticker, but let's say I want to put it on a t-shirt and I want it to be, 6.5, so 6.5, boom. Now it's 6.5 and now it's the same design and it's now able to be printed on a t-shirt. That's a design that's 6.5 inches by 6.5 inches. Okay, so again, versatile, multifunctional tools here with Illustrator. Questions on any of that real quick? We did just some quick color and pulling some sizes together. I want to go over some type things now. Anything else real quick? Everybody okay? You have to leave, that's fine. Go ahead and we'll get the video up, don't worry. Questions, everybody good? All right, so I want to just go through some very basic type things. Zoom into the paper again. Under the type tool, the T, we've got type in an area, type on a path, type vertical, vertical inside, vertical path, touch type tool. I'm just going to go through a couple of these right now. We're gonna get into all of them as we start to work and develop. So the typical tool is type. You just kind of click, and it gives you the starting point. It puts in lorem ipsum. It's kind of like a placeholder, and we can change that to be whatever we want. Okay, and it does default to whatever font that's going on here. So it does Myriad Pro. I've selected it, so it's highlighted. And then I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to give it a new typeface. Okay, and that's Codec Pro. We'll do it. We'll do bold for now. And then I'm going to scale it. Now, I can tell you not 90% of the time, because I'm not worried about things, I just kind of scale because I'm trying to get things proportional to each other. But if you know, for example, the size you want, you can just select it here. Okay, so this panel should look very familiar to you from Photoshop. Basically the same panel that we had before. Okay, and now while I'm in here, I can go through and make adjustments. Okay, I can, scale things. Okay, I can track things out. All right, so there was tracking out, tracking in. Okay, so I can get those to where I want. And again, I can put in a number. So if I'm like 100's too much and I want it to be a little bit more, right? Because I want maybe that N, that G to kind of come together. So what I might do, and I'm liking how this is all coming, so maybe I need to move that up. Maybe it's just like 78. Not quite. Maybe it's like 80. I can just literally type in a number to get to where I want. I can also use some other tools that are in here. Okay, and the other tool I want to use here is the touch type tool. So let's say I'm digging this, I'm liking the tracking on this, but I want to bring the G in and get rid of that little white gap, and I want to bring the N in and just get rid of that little gap. The other ones look pretty good at this -75. So I'm going to use what's called the touch type tool. And when I click on letters, it will highlight a letter, okay? And what that does is allow me to individually select and move that one letter. It also gives me some alternatives if there happens to be a glyph or an alternative letter. So maybe I like that G, and that looks pretty good. Maybe not. Go back to here. And I'm able to do things with this typeface. I can scale it. Okay, so I'm only moving that one letter. Everything else is staying the same. And the cool thing is it's still what we call live type, meaning I can come back and change this. I can modify this. I can stretch it up. Again, be careful of stretching and tweaking things too much. When you distort, things get a little weird. I can kick it. Okay, I can turn it. I can do sideways. And again, the cool thing is it's all real type. Okay, there's nothing here that's uneditable. You'll see the difference here in a second. And then again, I could start to move letters together. Okay, so I can pull things. Each letter is movable. I'm going to go take it back a couple steps here. Okay. So what I'm going to do is here, I just want to move this G in. I'm going to go back to my touch type tool. And I'm just going to inch it over. I just want it to just touch in. I want to kiss this I. And there I want this N just to be kissing the end of the G. Okay, that's all I want. Well, perfect. We're right on there. Okay. Now, this is, again, because I said it's editable, I could change it. So if, let's say I spell something wrong, well, I go back and I could fix it. Okay. It's completely changeable for what I'm doing. Okay. It still is type. It's still available. Now I'm going to make a copy of this just to kind of show you what else we can do. So again, I can modify and change things here with the touch type tool. You can even do things like I can highlight one letter if I want to, and I could give it a different color. Right now it's black, but let's say I want it to be red. Okay, so these are all things that I can do in here right away. So maybe it's D, and maybe I want to make this, I'm going to make this last 3 letters red also. Okay, so we got this D sign, right? It's a sign store, a sign company, design firm that works on signs. So that's their logo. Okay, but down here, I want to do some even more modifications. So what this I'm going to do is I'm going to convert this type from live type or live text into basically shapes. So I can go to type and drop down, and we get to create outlines. And when I do that, what it did was it made each typeface, each letter here into a shape now. So it is a true shape that I can play and modify with. And I'm going to go to ungroup, because when I converted it, I kept it as a group. And now you can see I can select each letter or each parts of the letter. I can come in with a select, and you can see I've got these in there. And I can even come in and modify. So maybe I want that I to be rounded. Okay, so I'm going to click this tool, isolate, and I'm going to just round the edges off. Okay, so I can go back in, and I can't do that up top here on this eye because it's all a typeface still. Okay, so I can't make that change here. I can't round these edges off, but I can round these off because it's not a letter anymore. It's just a shape. That shape just happens to make up the eye. Okay, so that's kind of one of the reasons we might want to make an outline, is we can make some adjustments to the typefaces as we go. Round them up. You can even take points out. Okay, I'm going to round these, but let's say I didn't want those. I can literally come in here with the point and take away anchors. Okay, so I can literally select them away, and I can rebuild these into other items. Okay, so outlining a typeface will allow you to go in and modify all kinds of things within that typeface. Okay. Which is different. And again, I still have the versatility to change colors. Okay. But when I'm selecting, you can see I'm getting all those points, all those anchors, and they all are editable. We're up here. I got just one, I got the word. Okay. So I can change the letters here still. I can't change the letters here. Here I can modify them and create something else. Up here, I could change the G into a C or whatever other letter I wanted to. Okay. I could still do color changes. Again, I'm just selecting them. Oops. Okay, so I do have that adjustability, but they're letters. The other thing is when they're here, I can move them, right? So I can select that letter and move it around. So I'm not adjusting here on the minus, okay, on the leading or tracking rather. And I'm not playing with the touch type tool to do that. I'm simply using my arrows to move items around. So Illustrator tends to be the program we start to use when we're kind of like modifying and tweaking and building things together, especially from a type standpoint, because it's very, very versatile in what I can use and construct. And 99.9% of all logos are going to be built in Illustrator because it is that versatile. And most logos tend to have some kind of wording in there. Not all, but the vast majority do. And we'll get into the kind of different types of logos on class on Thursday, so you guys can see what those are. Questions? Okay, so we went through just some really simple type things today. We will get into more, and we'll get into using some of these other ones as we go to give you some more capabilities as you start the design. But know that a lot of these items are the same. The glyphs, very much like we had in Photoshop, the character panel, open type is, we'll talk about that later. Paragraphing tools are the same. You can do multiple things of type, but again, Illustrator is not designed to be doing a big book. Okay, you could do a poster, and we will. You could do a book cover, but even if you're doing a book cover, the back of the book cover where they have all the words, kind of like the description and stuff, you probably would do that in InDesign. So you would take your Illustrator file, bring it to InDesign, and then put that typography in there. Okay, so a lot of it's kind of using what program, different programs for different kind of aspects of what you're trying to create to give you the desired effect that you're working on. Okay, questions? What we kind of went over today. So we went over some basic type, went over pathfinding. Okay, so using the Pathfinder tools here. If you don't see it on your panels here, go in their window, and you have all those in here. And let's see what else. We did the different shape tools. We did talk about the line tool and those kind of items today. And then we refreshed a little bit with the pen tool, taking away and adding anchors, that type of thing. Questions? All right, let me see what else I want to cover today. I think that's basically all I want to show you guys today. Yeah. Questions on where we are with this? We're going to get more. We'll get more on Thursday. Questions about the record album? What's going to be due for Thursday?
How do you, I know I think I asked this already last time, but how do you, after you're supposed to save them as a PDF, then bring them in, but I'm having a hard time finding how to put the back in because for some reason I can't find the thing in the an example one to flip it over to the back side. I have the front side
It's
done.
just
I
the
just
back is
don't-
the back. So if we're here, let me open that file for you. Let me get that back open. So that's that. Let me just find. Okay. So this is the mockup file. It's obviously been saved with that. So basically, you will turn off. You will just put the new layer on. So if we have the, I'm going to open it up. I don't want the inside. Go back. That's the record part. I'm going to do the vinyl cover. Click here. So now I've got, in this case, this is the front of the album, and I would just kind of open up the back and drop it in. So I'm going to open up the back, and here's the back. JPEG, open that up. Command all, I'm going to copy it. So let me see, something's getting weird again. Okay. 1 second here. So I'm copying it, okay? And then I'm just going to paste it in, Command V. I may have to scale it. I'm just Command T to scale, and I'm holding the shift to keep it proportional. Or not holding the shift. Someday Photoshop will get, everything will get complaint or written out to be the same. Let me just move that up. So we're here, we'll say that fits perfectly. I hit save. Okay, again, we're working on this PSB file, which is kind of a template file. Close that back up, and now it came back over here to my mockup. And then I'll save this as a separate JPEG. So one will be with it being the other cover, and one will be with the back of the cover. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah, so you still just use like the same like photo, and but it's just
Yeah,
just
same
kind
same
of-
mockup. Yeah,
you're just doing one as the front and then doing the
Yeah,
same file in a sense, and then as the back.
exactly.
Oh, okay.
Yes, exactly. And again, we're doing the mockup because if you were to show this to a client, they get this. They go, oh, there's a record. I see it. It makes sense to people. You know, I just think it shows better when you can see. It's kind of like, you know, showing a piece of clothing and it on somebody. It looks better. You can see how it kind of fits. Right now, we're kind of showing how, in this case, your record designs fit on an actual record. It just happens to be square, but visually it helps people to understand it better. Okay, other questions? Wait. What happened to my screen? I don't know what that is. I don't know. It's not showing me my thing. So, questions, everybody else? Let's make sure we got everybody before we all slip away.
Yeah, is it really easier to use your mockup file to create this or to start from scratch?
I would start from scratch. I would just do a 12 by 12.
Okay, all right, that's what I
Do
thought.
12 by 12 file, build your whole thing up. When you're all done with that as a PSD, as a Photoshop file, save it as a JPEG, and then you bring that JPEG into your mockup.
Okay, so I'm a little bit confused when you say you create it as a JPEG and bring that into your mockup. I don't understand what you mean by that.
Okay,
And I know I'm just hung up on vernacular here.
that's okay. So over here, we made the file. So initially we had this as a PSD with multiple layers, right? And then I saved it all down, so it's all flat now. It's all just one layer, okay? And then what I'm just going to do is copy that. I'm just selecting, and I see the marching ants. I'm going to copy and make sure I'm on the right layer here. Commands, Command R, Command C. I think that worked. And then I'm coming back here to my album, and I'm double clicking on the layers, okay? And I'm gonna just paste it in. I'm gonna paste in that layer. I'm gonna scale to fit. So right now I'm working on the mockup file. So this is just my JPEG, and I'll change the color so you can see it here in a second. Let me just do a color shift on that so you can totally see what I'm doing here. Won't be confused. We'll just saturate the hell out of it. Okay, so we've done this. This is that layer that we opened up. We save it, and then we come back to our mockup, and it's been changed. And then we save the mockup as a JPEG. Okay, so file.
Okay, so
export.
I'm looking at your the class website,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't find. Okay, record album mockup file. That's a video, I think.
No, it should
Oh,
be.
no.
Let me do it. Let me get down to it.
It's like at the very bottom.
Right
I
here.
think.
Record album mockup file. So if you click on this, it's going to download. Okay. When I click here, it downloads. It doesn't open up here because it's a mockup. It's a PSD. Okay. So if you click on this, it'll go to your downloads, and then you can open it up. See, it opened up.
Okay.
This is what it'll open up to. And then you just simply come in and go, okay, I need to do my cover. Double says right here, design. Let me open it so you can read it. Your design here, double click the layer thumbnail. So I'm going to double click on it, and it opens up here. And this is kind of what's in there, but I want to put my own in there. So I'm going to bring in here. I just copied it over as a JPEG. And then I'm going to scale it because I'm a little bit bigger than what the mockup file is. It's still the same ratio. It's just my file is much bigger because I did 12 by 12. We'll call that good. Save it. Close it. And I come back here, and you can see it's been put into place. Okay, and you're just going to do that 4 times. So one for the front, one for the back, one for the second front, one for the second back. And then you'll save each one of these as a JPEG. Okay, so you can just do it, save a copy. Select JPEG, put them someplace, and then you'll take those 4 JPEGs, put them together into the Acrobat file.
Okay, I'll have to review this recording over and over to
Okay.
get it, but I
And that's what, if you have problems, we can go through it. Don't stress on it. You know, if you look, hey, I didn't get it, we need to go over it again. I don't take off points if you're like, oh, don't worry. I want you guys to do it. It's not about, yes, I want things on time, but more importantly, I want you to know how to do it. So if it takes a little bit longer, or, something got whacked out and you didn't finish your project because whatever, you tell me and I'll give you some additional time to get that finished. But to me, it's more important to do the work and learn from it than to just kind of deal with deadlines. Because I think you guys already know if you don't meet certain deadlines, there's ramifications. Okay?
Thank you very
I
much.
need to
I'm,
teach that.
thank you for this. I'm less stressed about it now.
Yeah, don't stress. Seriously. I mean, I want creativity. I want you guys to work. I want you to learn these programs. Like I said, you'll have deadlines. Don't worry. I know, and I know you know how to deal with them, and you will. At this point, it's about being creative for me. It's about using these programs in order to get what we need to get.
Okay, sorry, I have one last question is how do you do the little inside of the vinyl?
That's the part here,
Uh-huh.
Yeah. That's a new layer. So down here it says vinyl, and it says your designs here. So when you do that, it opens up. This is the little area for that. So if you can literally just, change the color. Put a, okay, and then you just save it again.
You said double click on that your design thing, right?
Yeah, and you'll see here, I put in the new one. So one is for the cover. I mean, it's so big now you can't see it. So that's the cover, and then this is the inside. And right here is the label. Just double click here.
Okay, cool, perfect, thank you.
It's all kind of built in. It's different. Like what if I, turn off a different thing, you can see it just. And then there's even like the shadows. You can turn the shadows off. Okay. And again, if you mess up, you go, oh God, I don't know what I did. You can just go re-download it, and you'll get the same file again. You'll get the original when you click here. All right. Other questions? All right. Let me just double check and make sure I got everybody for today. Other questions as I double check everybody. We've got everyone. All right. Anything else? So work on obviously finish up the album. Okay. Send that as an email. And then when you get done that, just work with Illustrator a little bit more. Thursday, we're going to get into a little bit more how to build a logo and how to do some of that. And we're going to get into the project of designing a logo. So we're going to actually start the next project on Thursday, and I'll get some spec sheets typed up for you guys on that. But again, it's not going to be doing. You're going to have at least a week, 2 weeks or so to work on this. Okay, I'm not trying to have you do it over a night or over a weekend. Okay. Anything else, guys?
I have a question.
Yes.
I was just wondering if we were going to be able to see everybody's.
Yeah.
projects.
Oh yeah. I forgot. Anybody want to share? Go ahead and share. My bad on that.
No, I mean like
Yeah.
towards the end,
Yeah. Let me get the.
like after they're submitted.
Let me get the share thing going here. Okay, I think you can share now.
I mean like after they're submitted. Are you going to have like?
Oh yeah. I'm gonna look at them. We're gonna try to look as many as we can on Thursday.
Oh, okay. That was it. I don't want to
Yeah.
share. I'm too
No.
nervous.
You don't want to share? That's okay.
No.
You don't want to share?
No.
It's probably gonna be the best looking one out there. I'm gonna look for
Sure.
it. I bet it's gonna be fine.
I'll let you think that.
Okay. You're gonna
Thank
be
you.
fine. Don't worry. Don't worry. It's okay. I'm
That was funny.
I'm gentle with the shares. Don't worry. Okay, anything else? Did anybody want to share anything today? If I opened that up, forgot all about it. I get in my own little world. Anybody? All right, so we'll look at the work on Thursday. If you don't want to share, make a note. I'll try to keep track of it. We'll go through. Again, it's just showing, and everybody's going to get better. Don't worry. We've got more projects to go. It's just kind of the first one. And I always have time too. If you like want to rework a project, by all means, create. I don't want to stifle your creativity. That's why we're here. I want you guys to learn and be creative. Okay. All right, go work, do your stuff. We'll see each other on Thursday.
Thank you.
Next
Thank
class.
you.